Hey guys, welcome back to CRDMODS. This is Rahul for you. So this time we came up with a new video for the Superbike Essential General Service, especially for the Hayabusa Generation 2. So I do have a lineup of Motul products behind me. Have a glance over them. As you are seeing in this video, I do have a lineup of Motul things, and you can find the little soldiers lined up in front of the coolant and the engine oil are none other than the dot 4 brake fluid, and behind that we do have the enginized coolant, and beside that we do have the Motul 7100 10W50 engine oil and a throttle body cleaner, along with a tiny engine flush and a petrol additive. So these are all lined up for a general service. So stay tuned guys to understand like why I'm going to use these products, and especially for the generation 2 Busa. Try to understand the context why I'm using these products and not other products which are generally are available in the market. So I'll go in step by step. So it's all about the little soldiers. Let me pick up one of the little soldier. So before that, what does a generation 2 Hayabusa recommend in the service manual? It's a dot 4 brake fluid. So it's this guy. Yep. The first question is like, why so many this 100 ml of dot 4 brake fluid? First thing is that there are two reasons for this. Why I choose a mini 100 ml bottle is that these dot 4 brake fluids are usually are prone to absorb the moisture if you once you open the seal. So the best thing is that it has a sealant over here, the silver color foil what you are able to see, it's a sealant over here. Once you remove this, it tries to absorb the moisture. So better whenever you're using a brake fluid, just take a brand new one, probably a 100 ml one, and use it and just throw it off, because once you keep it aside, it will absorb a lot of moisture, so it's not suggested for the performance bikes. The point here comes is that like, why do I choose this dot 4 brake fluid? Since is one of the reason is that it is suggested by the service center that you're supposed to use dot 4, and prior that we do have a dot 3 which is not suitable, and though it is a glycol based, but it's not suggested because we do already have upgraded version of dot 3, and that is a dot 4. Is that only the dot 4 the latest one? No, we do have a dot 5 and dot 5.1. 5 is a different thing. It's a silicone based fluid which is actually very different. Usually it is used for most of the military grade vehicles, and which are not used for the longer times. So probably like if you're showcasing a vehicle in an event or something, or like in a museum, which it holds a lot of time, so probably dot 5 is used for such kind of vehicles. But in a generic case, we do use dot 4 and dot 5.1. So what is the difference? Mostly like, what is the difference between dot 3, 4 and 5 and 5.1? The major difference, only thing, is the composition. See, the dot 3 and dot 4 and dot 5.1 are made of a called of a glycol composition fluid, whereas the dot 5 is totally a different composition which is made up of silicone based. In an instance, let us assume that your vehicle got breakdown at some point, so you wanted to add the brake fluid. So this guy, this tiny little guy, even the dot 4 can be mixed up into dot 5.1, and even can be mixed up in dot 3 in emergency situation. But this dot 3, 4 and 5.1 are of the same family, so they can club anywhere in emergency. But you can't mix this, especially the dot 5 liquid, which is has a different family, and it's kind of a silicone based thing. So what happens if you mix the both dot 5 and dot 4 or anything with this kind of oils? What happens is that it's like it's a silicone, right? The dot 5 is it's a silicone based. So what happens, like when you add some water in on top of oil, how does it float? So it makes that diversion over there, so it doesn't suit for your vehicle, and later it might create a vapor and make your brakes very spongy and even sometimes break down the things too. So it's always suggested to go for a dot 4 or 5.1 as per your budget constraints. And one more reason why I chose the dot 4 over the 5.1 is that, like, dot 4 is something where, especially for the city ride conditions, and if you are like, there might be a question, then when should you use the dot 5.1 brake fluid? The dot 5.1 brake fluid can be used onto your vehicles when you know your driving style, because I know my driving style, so my preference, I choose dot 4. But for your driving style, like you might be a track guy, you most frequent of the time you go for the track days and everything, and so where you use the aggressive braking, where you rev up and do the braking on the track day, right? It's very very common, and at that point the fluid heats up very fast. So the major difference out of these four brake fluids is that everything, the dot 3 has an upgrade of dot 4, and dot 4 has upgrade of dot 5, and dot 5 has upgrade of dot 5.1. So what is the major difference over them is like the boiling point. If you can just see that it has a typical dry boiling point and also a wet boiling point. What is this dry boiling point? So the Motul dot 4 fluid has a 248 degrees centigrade capability of a dry boiling point, whereas for the wet boiling point it is around 160 degrees centigrade. So what is this dry and wet? So when you add a fresh bottle of this Motul into a system, so that's kind of a dry thing. So let us assume that you have the wear and tear, and if you are going to use it for much longer time, after 6 months or 7 months or more than that, then probably there might be chances of moisture entering into your brake lines. So that's where the wet boiling point comes into the picture. So that is more specific to the wet and dry things. There also might be a point like, how does the moisture enter into a vehicle system? So it might be from the brake master cap. Nowadays we are, everyone is equipped with the brake lines of steel braided brake lines. So earlier, before that, like, we would have this rubber pipe. So what happens is that whenever, when you on the aggressive braking up, right, the oil, the fluid in the pipes heats up. So the rubber usually has a nature of expanding and contracting. So that's where it comes into the picture. So due to that, the moisture enters into the fluid. So that is one of the drawback in the system. So probably this dot 4 guy can give a life up to 2 years. So probably it's suggested that even though you have your vehicle has equipped with the steel braided lines, even from the front and the rear, but it's suggested that change, bleed everything and change it for every at least 2 years. So that is very mandatory for that. So make sure you do that. So the major important parts comes about here is that, like, how are you going to top up? So usually there's some people, usually what they do is that, like, whenever they notice some brake fluid level goes down, they usually go for a top up. Instead of, what I would feel is that, for especially for the super bikes, drain out the entire old fluid out and pour the new brake fluid. Guys, trust me, like, this is not much costly too. Probably it gonna cost you some 65 rupees for 100 ml. Probably if you're going to drain completely, it won't, it at worst case even it won't be more than 500 ml for all the front and the rear brake calipers, especially for the super bikes, because it has a dual calipers front and the singulator rear. And you might ask a question like, why do you have all this lineup around 10 bottles of 100 ml? Is probably it's a 1 liter. So it's exactly what we use in for the hydraulic systems. So the front disc brakes are hydraulic, and even for the booster gen 2, like most of the super bikes, like we do have the hydraulic clutch too. So I'm gonna drain the entire the clutch and the brakes. So that's the reason I brought up 10 lineup. So that is around 1 liter. So that's about it. And one important trick I'm going to share it to you, know, like, I'm going to show you one of the part which is must helpful, and you guys should have it yourself. So this will help you to remove the minute air bubbles which are trapped inside the brake lines. I'll show it right away. So this is called as one way check valve. If you can find the symbol over there, it probably shoots an arrow which actually tells the direction of the air which are supposed to go. If you can understand this, it what actually does it is that, like, you need to attach a pipe. I do have the pipes here. So these are the attachments for it. So you do have two different pipes and locks for it. So what we usually do is like you need to connect the smaller pipe here on the top end, and the exit pipe, the exhaust thing outside. So what happens is that when you connect this pipe to your brake lines, the valve over there, and you need to lose that, and continuously hit on your brakes from the start to end slowly and leave it. In that way it creates some vacuum over there, and it builds up the pressure over there. So what happens here is that one end is connected to the disc caliper wall, and the other end is to a drain thing. So you can usually happens is that like it's a one-way wall, guys. So what exactly the mechanical thing happens here is that it doesn't allow the air come back to the system. So when you connect this end to the caliper end, and when you compress the brakes and release it, so the pressure goes up out of through this wall to the exit thing, and usually it doesn't come back, because when you compress the brake and leave it, it pulls the vacuum out. So in that way, if you're not using this wall, right, the air again goes over there. So these are one of the best easiest device. You can get it for 3 to 400 rupees in the Amazon. So that's the purpose, and it is much helpful. You can do it yourself. It is a DIY product. I usually do for my bikes, and it's even useful for cars. So just do that, guys. So you can buy this product. I'll share you the Amazon link also, and buy this product, and remove the air bubbles from your system frequently after every 1,000 or 2,000 kilometers. You can just do it yourself. So this is one of the device. So most of the superbike riders prefer buying a dot 5.1 brake fluid. Yes, please go for it if your driving style requires it. Else stick to the dot 4. Even that works fine. So that's about this, guys. Stay tuned for CRD modes and much more videos coming up, rolled up. So if you like the content, please give us a like and subscribe this channel if you're watching for the first time. Stay tuned, guys. Take care.